Good morning, ladies. Well, we got some chairs in here today. That's great. All right. Well, thank you for coming. We do have an update. As you know, this is there's a lot of work that go into making these plans and doing the logistics. And we must be flexible. We must be alert. And we are, of course, the hurricane is gathering strength. As you know, it's expected to be a Category 4, which means over 130 miles an hour. So, John Quagliarello from the National Weather Service. You begin, please.
Thank you, Governor. So as of earlier this morning, the National Hurricane Center issued a hurricane watch and a storm surge watch from along the South Carolina coast from Edisto Beach northward. This hurricane watch means that hurricane force winds and life-threatening storm surge are all possible in that watch area. Florence is currently a Category 4 hurricane with wind speeds of 130 miles per hour. The official forecast track has changed little, still showing the potential for a major hurricane to make landfall somewhere along the Carolina coast Thursday night into early Friday. It's still very important, as we've been mentioning, to remember not to focus on the projected landfall location of Florence. While the official track shows landfall along the southern North Carolina coast, the cone of uncertainty still covers most of the South Carolina coastline, indicating a potential landfall along the South Carolina coast is still possible. There's some concern that residents in evacuation zones will see the track and think the storm will not pose a threat. But it's important to remember that the impacts of this hurricane will extend far beyond where it makes landfall. Hurricane force winds, storm surge inundation, again, are all possible in the watch area. In addition, as Florence nears the coast, it will slow its forward speed, like producing significant rainfall and flooding north and east of its track. So overall, it's better to get prepared now and get to a safe location if you're in an evacuation zone than risk being directly impacted by a landfalling major hurricane if Florence does indeed come to the South Carolina coast and make direct landfall here. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, John. And we'll answer questions in a minute. Effective immediately, I have lifted the mandatory evacuation order for all evacuation zones in the following three counties only. They were to go into effect at noon. They will not go into effect. I have now lifted them in three counties and three counties only: Jasper, Beaufort, and Colleton. And that is based on the most recent information that Mr. Quagliarello just related. Edisto Beach, however, is in Colleton County. Edisto Beach is also within the hurricane watch zone, so Edisto Beach will still be considered at evacuation at 12 noon today under the evacuation order. The latest hurricane watch issued by the National Hurricane Center, as you know, extends along the coast from Edisto Beach all the way up to the North Carolina border and beyond. So that's what we're watching. What is a hurricane watch? As explained, that means that hurricane conditions, and those are sustained winds of 74 miles an hour or more, are possible within that area. A hurricane watch is typically issued 48 hours in advance of the anticipated onset of the hurricane in that area. How about our offices, state offices, and schools? State government offices and schools in Jasper, Beaufort, and Colleton counties, as I mentioned, as well as in Aiken, Allendale, Bamberg, and Barnwell counties and Hampton County will reopen and operate tomorrow, Wednesday, September the 12th, according to the local authorities' direction. We're lifting that order as to them and then only. Also, I have ordered that the lane reversal scheduled to begin at noon today on I-26 in Charleston will start 1 hour earlier at 11 o'clock. It has already started to relieve traffic in that area. The Department of Transportation and Department of Public Safety were able to prepare and secure the lanes for reversal earlier than anticipated, and there's no reason for us not to go ahead and open them up. So they're open now and traffic is flowing. US Highway 501 in Myrtle Beach is still on the 12 noon today scheduled order for its reversal. Because the planned evacuation has been lifted for Beaufort County, as mentioned earlier, there's no need to reverse those lanes there. That's on US Highway 278 and Highway 21 in Beaufort County. There will be no reversal of those lanes there. Department of Transportation and Department of Public Safety will keep a presence, a strong presence on those highways, and will monitor the traffic there to ensure a steady and safe and normal traffic flow. So let me be clear. The mandatory evacuation is still in place for all the evacuation zones in Charleston County, Berkeley County, Dorchester, Georgetown, and Horry counties. This is still a very dangerous storm. We must take it very seriously. The weather man here and others are all predicting that this is a unpredictable storm, a hurricane, and so we must be vigilant. We are in a very deadly and important game of chess with Hurricane Florence, and what we are doing, Team South Carolina is staying one step ahead. And that's what we've done with the precision of these orders and instructions that we're giving now. Next, I'll call on General Livingston for his report.
Thank you, Governor.
General?
Team South Carolina, all of the departments continue to reposition resources. Director Smith and Secretary Hall will talk specifically about the lane reversal piece, but we are positioning all resources according to the governor's orders, and we're prepared to react to the hurricane in the other counties that are under the evacuation order. We're taking this extremely seriously. This is something we have not seen since Hugo. Even if the hurricane goes slightly north, we'll see effects like we saw in Charleston and Hugo. So this is a very serious storm, and Team South Carolina continues to reposition. We have about 1,800 National Guardsmen on duty right now, and we will continue to increase the mobilization as the storm gets closer. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, General. Secretary Hall.
Thank you, Governor. As you know, we are currently looking at our traffic volumes within the Myrtle Beach area as well as the Charleston area, and I'm here to report, as we've reported earlier today, that we are seeing significant traffic increases on the highways coming out of the Myrtle Beach area, in particular along Highway 501, SC9, Conway Bypass, and US 378. We're seeing anywhere from 4 to 6 times normal traffic volumes on those highways, and so the lane reversal on 501 will be just in time to help alleviate that. For the Charleston area, we're seeing approximately 3 times normal traffic volumes on I-26 heading in the westbound direction, and so that lane reversal as well will be just in time to help address some of those traffic flows.
Thank
Governor.
you. Director Smith.
Thank you, Governor. Leroy Smith, Department of Public Safety. As the Governor stated, lane reversal operations on the I-26 corridor are underway. I must state that the flushing process went very smoothly this morning. With regard to US 501, the flushing process has started. That started at 11 a.m. this morning, and we anticipate having that lane reversal on the US 501 implemented at 12 noon. Now, I just want to talk a little about that operation. The ingress will be at US 501 at the SC22 interchange, and the egress where it ends will be at the US 501 Marion bypass. It's about a 30-mile route, and again, the flushing process has begun for that. Our evacuation plan is in full effect. That means that all of our resources dedicated to this endeavor are in position, whether it's a local evacuation routes, the traffic control points, etc. As the governor alluded to earlier, we will be in a position to monitor and manage the traffic on the US 21 and US 278 highways. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. Tim Stinson.
Thank you, Governor. The State Emergency Response Team, our priorities obviously are still evacuation and sheltering operation. You've heard about the evacuation piece, and so we'll talk a little bit about the sheltering piece. Shelters are starting to be opened right now. We've got about 28 shelters that will be opened here shortly. or if not already, and have a capacity of about 25,000 people. And then we can open additional shelters as needed, throughout the next couple of days. The full list of the shelters will be updated live in real time on our website at scemd.org, and it's also in our South Carolina Emergency Manager mobile app. Reminder that if you are going to a shelter, and a lot of people elect not to, they go with family and friends or find a hotel room somewhere, but if you go to a shelter, you will need blankets and pillows and comfort items, any medicines that you might have for any chronic conditions. Obviously, things like ID documents and that sort of thing. And then special food, if you have small children or on a restricted diet, there'll be food available, but it may not be, what you necessarily need all the time. And pets, service animals are allowed at the shelters, and there are some shelters that do accept pets, but there are many that don't. But workers will be there if you show up and help you make arrangements for your pet. And also, the last item I wanted to mention is our public information phone line, public information phone service is open right now, and it's at 1-866-246-0133. They have Spanish interpreters available if there's a need for that, but it's available right now and operational for evacuation questions, shelter questions, or any other questions that you might have. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions?
Sorry, what was that number
Yes,
again?
ma'am. There it is.
So the lane reversals, how are those impacting folks trying to get gasoline and other supplies to the coast?
The Department of Transportation, in cooperation with DPS, we're developing some routing plans specifically for those tankers and special needs that need to get to the coast. So we're working them around the areas that they need to go.
Next question.
When are you expecting the peak hour of all these motors moving towards the Midlands, and then kind of what's your precaution
I mean,
to,
those million or so people.
right, and what's your precaution to National Guardsmen and other people that's working along the highway?
I'm gonna defer to Secretary Hall in terms of the volume of traffic and so forth.
So we're seeing roughly currently about 3 times the normal volume that we expect to see on I-26. Obviously, with the storm approaching, with the evacuation order going into effect, we're expecting to see some additional increases in that. I don't have a specific time exactly when we expect to see those peak numbers, but we are monitoring those every hour and trying to make adjustments as needed with patrol to make sure we have things moving smoothly up and down the highways to get people out of the area of danger. So sometime, late today, early or tomorrow as well. Morning time seems to be a common time for people to want to get on the highways. So we're prepared. Whenever the peak comes, we'll be ready to handle it.
Thank you, General. Governor.
Just a reminder, we will terminate operations 6 hours before the onset of tropical force winds to give everybody, all the workers, a chance to remove the barriers and get into a safe location.
Governor, yesterday you mentioned that some of the school buses would be used to ferry people from those evacuation areas.
Right.
Has that started yet? If so, how can people find out this is going on? Where can they go?
They can call that number to get that information, and the others as well. But of course, we're not having, we're canceling that order in those counties that I mentioned earlier. A part of our approach to this, part of our team approach to this is to prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. And as the weather has shifted, we are making the precision adjustments to see that we're doing the right thing. But anybody want to comment more on that question?
Do you know the specifics?
On the local?
Yes, sir.
It's a local decision with the buses. Go ahead.
Yeah. All the local counties, the coastal counties, have plans to transport people without transportation assets themselves to centralized pickup points and then take them to shelters. So the first place to probably call is the county, and many of them have information lines or county emergency management. But if that doesn't work, you can't, certainly this number right here will help as well.
Governor,
Yes,
following up
ma'am.
on your preparation comment, there are those that are saying that you pulled the trigger too early, criticizing you, especially now that some of the order has been lifted. What would you say to that?
Well, the order that did not go into effect was lifted. As I say, this is a very dangerous hurricane, and we do not want to gamble with a single life of a single South Carolinian. We live on the coast, so we're going to have hurricanes, and we must take precautions. And everyone agrees this is one of the most dangerous and most unpredictable we've seen, with a force that is even greater than Hugo, which a lot of us remember as being very strong. So we try to operate on the very best and latest information with precision, just not to inconvenience people when it's not necessary to do so, but also to be sure that our people are out of harm's way, and that we've exercised all the logistical implications and everything we need to do to have thousands of public servants that are working to keep the people safe. This is a part of the plan, and you may notice that when we announced the original precautions, we on the lane reversals in Beaufort County, we had those in suspense. That is, they were not ordered to go into effect at noon today as the others were, and that's precisely because the situation in those counties towards the southern part of the state are a little different from the others, and we have now implemented further and refined that plan as you see today.
I want to go back to my bus question. So as it stands right now, there are no buses that you guys know of taking people to these shelters?
Why don't you do that?
I'm sure that's ongoing right now, and that's part of the process. So I just can't tell you for sure, who's moving or what, but that's all part of the process. And right now, the evacuation doesn't start for another 30 minutes, so they probably don't have a lot of business yet, but they probably will later today.
Also, someone has asked me, is there a reason that there's not a sign language interpreter out here right now?
One was not available.
Yeah, exactly, but we'll have one here available 24 hours a day from now on.
On the order itself, you've mentioned that it's mandatory.
Yes.
What does that word mean exactly?
That means you must go.
But what happens if you don't?
Well, to begin with, you might be a victim of the hurricane. Is one thing that might happen if you don't, because this evacuation order is based on the very best information we have from professional sources all over the world, and in the talent in South Carolina and sophistication working on it is second to none anywhere. This is our best estimate of the right thing to do.
But no one will be put in handcuffs and let
Well,
away?
technically, there have been instances when people have simply refused to leave, where they say, for example, that their house was not going to be flooded, and it turned out the water was up over the roof, and they were invited into a boat and to leave, even though they did not want to go.
Are you,
Technically, it is a mandatory order.
are you requiring people to sign any paperwork if they refuse to leave and that type of thing, or?
No, sir.
Governor, there seemed to be some concern about hotels yesterday. Do we have any idea on the latest figures? Do people need to keep going west past?
We do. Dwayne Parrish is here, Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Director. Dwayne?
Thank you, Governor. Yes, the best way for those that are in the evacuation zones to check for availability outside the evacuations is to look at online travel agents such as Expedia, Travelocity.com. If there's a particular area they'd like to go, they can certainly look at that. You can also use hotel brand websites, other short-term stay sites such as Airbnb to check for areas outside of the evacuation zones. That's the fastest way to check availability.
Can they up the price because of this happening?
There are price gouging laws in South Carolina. We're not to say they can't, but it'd be against the law. And once the evacuation order, which is now in effect as of noon today, will take place, price gouging laws are in place now for that to prevent that from happening.
What if that does happen? What do they do?
We'll follow up afterwards. We'll track that. People can call and report that to this number that you see on the screen here. Call and report a hotel that may be, or gas station or others that may be gouging, and report that, and we'll follow up after the storm.
And eventually, of course, that would, as Dwayne Parrish says, eventually that would get to the Attorney General's office for questions of investigation and prosecution. But it's very difficult to do anything on the spot, so people should not expect anything on the spot. Just as people should not expect to get arrested and made to leave. We have millions of people that are going to be being evacuated, so we want everybody to use their best judgment, obey the law, and obey the instructions.
There are concerns from people that are hourly wage workers working in tourist kind of jobs along the coast. What would you tell them in terms of perhaps losing a week's wages?
Well, we live on the coast, and that most of us are just happy to lose. As it was predicted earlier, it'd be 10 feet above ground level on many parts of the coast. All those things are still changing, probably on a minute-by-minute basis, but we know we're going to have flooding, and if we have changes that need to be acted on, we'll do it immediately, and we will announce those right here.
And then lastly, I saw that President Trump approved your emergency order. Can you talk
Yes.
a little bit about what assistance help maybe that's giving the state?
That emergency declaration from the president opens the door to federal help, assistance, funds in a variety of ways, and he called
The state of South Carolina has been approved for what they call direct federal assistance, and then that would allow us to, through FEMA, procure anything from generators to food to tarps and that sort of thing. But we are not yet approved for our own procurement and get that 75% reimbursement that we normally get. So right now it's somewhat limited, but we expect that as time goes on, that we'll be eligible for more programs and as the process continues.
What should people in the Midlands and more inland be worried about and preparing for? I mean, stores even in Columbia already have water flying off the shelf. Are those preparations?
That's good. That shows that the people are responding to the situation. The situation, again, according to everybody, this is a very dangerous storm. It could even be Category 5 by the time it gets here. It just gets off our coast. People need to be careful. Better be safe than sorry. And it's a good sign when we see preparations being made.
Anything to the upstate, they're going to be taking in a lot of people up there where we are as well. I know cars full of families. Encourage anything of them.
Is there what?
Anything in the upstate. Encourage anything of people in the upstate. They'll be taking in a lot of people as well.
Well, they need to be on alert just like everyone else, because it's a dangerous storm, and we don't know how far the winds and the rain will go. As I say, we know we're going to have flooding, Anything else on that? Dwayne
No,
Harris?
obviously, we're known for hospitality, so I'm sure Greenville, Spartanburg, and the upstate will open their arms and welcome people.
Y'all, thank you very much.